Hello and welcome to Konnichivalue. This video is all about how housing in Tokyo is way cheaper and more spacious than you think. This video is made because I want to bust some myths. You see, the world's richest and largest city is cheaper and roomier than most people could ever imagine. After writing several articles on the real estate market in Tokyo, I constantly come across the same myths. The most prevailing myth is that Tokyo is still the same place as it was during its bubble heydays in the 80s. That means the world's most expensive city where everyone lives in a futuristic shoebox-sized pod that costs more than a mansion in the US. Another myth I constantly hear is that Tokyo is a concrete jungle that is packed with massive skyscrapers. Thanks to the research at the Greater London Authority Housing and Land Commission, I can now put these myths to rest once and for all. Let's start with myth number 1. Housing in Tokyo is exorbitantly expensive. Sure, rents in Tokyo are by no means cheap, especially compared to other cities in Japan. However, you got to take Tokyo for what it is, the world's richest and most populous city. With that said, Tokyo is cheaper than most metropolises around the world. Tokyo is substantially cheaper than New York, London, and Paris. The differences in rents have only widened in recent years, since rents have risen much faster in those cities. On top of that, the Japanese yen has been dropping substantially over the past 2 years, which makes the gap wider than ever. A common counter-argument is that salaries in those cities are higher and hence people spend a similar percentage of their income on rent. However, Tokyoites allocate around 30% of their income on rent, while 40 to 50% is the norm in London, Paris, and New York City. The main reason for this is that Tokyo builds so much more housing than those cities. Since 1968, Tokyo's housing stock has grown nearly 300%. By contrast, the other 3 cities have converged, although the underlying growth rates vary, with London's housing stock having grown only by 36% since 1971, New York's by 19% since 1970, and Paris by 32% since 1968. So the simple way to summarize the busting of myth 1 is that Tokyo has way cheaper rent than other major cities because they build like crazy. Let's get on to myth number 2. People in Tokyo live in shoebox-sized apartments. In fact, the average person in Tokyo has the same amount of floor area as a Parisian or a Londoner. You see, Paris has the similar space per person as London and Tokyo, with 31 square meters, 33 square meters, and 32 square meters, respectively. Only in New York City do people have more space with an average of 43 square meters in floor area. However, New Yorkers also pay far more in rent per square meter. Even more striking is that more people in Tokyo live in detached houses compared to apartments, which is 30% in Tokyo, while in New York it's only 16% and in Paris only 12%. Let's go to myth number 3. Tokyo is a concrete jungle crammed with massive skyscrapers. First, Tokyo is definitely a packed city with a lot of concrete towers, but it's often lower and less dense than people think. In fact, the tallest building in Tokyo is only 255 meters. That's not even in the top 100 of the world's tallest buildings. In fact, Tokyo is much lower than both New York and Paris. Perhaps even more shocking is that Tokyo is less dense than New York and Paris. Again, only Greater London is less dense than Tokyo. This is a 3D visual of the population density of the 4 cities discussed, with London at the top left, New York at the top right, Paris at the bottom left, and Tokyo at the bottom right. As you can see, Tokyo is dense, but not especially tall, whereas especially New York and Paris are incredibly tall and dense in the city center and very flat outside due to suburban sprawl. I have written extensively about why Tokyo can build so much more than the other cities on this list, and why Tokyo has so few mega skyscrapers, and also why Tokyo doesn't have the problem of suburban sprawl we see in London, Paris, and especially New York. And all that information can be found at konichivalue.com, where I write about the finest news articles and stock analysis on Japan, so please check it out. As an investor in both stocks and real estate, I want to say that properties in Tokyo have underperformed compared to its peers, but even this is probably about to change. Prices are rising steadily here compared to other cities, especially now when we're seeing property prices decreasing in London, New York, and Paris, while they are still going up in Tokyo. At the end of the day, Tokyo is cheaper and more livable than New York, Paris, and London, which is attracting a lot of people and investors. I am convinced that livability will be more and more important for a continued increase in real estate prices, which is likely why we've seen more and more people and investors getting attracted to Tokyo City. Thank you for your time and have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.